Today, Kevin is going to be making this no-bake chocolate bottom pumpkin tart. This is from the Unofficial Harry Potter Cookbook. This was sent to us from George Ann, so thank you very much to George Ann. So this recipe is actually separated into 3 different sections. You have your tart dough ingredients, your chocolate bottom ingredients, and then your pumpkin filling ingredients. We're going to focus on one set of ingredients at a time. So the first tart dough ingredients, I'm going to let Kevin take over from here.
You need 1 cup all-purpose flour. You got really small writing. 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. 3/4 or 6 tablespoons of cold butter or margarine cut into pieces. 1 large egg yolk. 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla.
It's hard to see the heavy cream. It's white on white. So you need a food processor.
You could probably do this by hand if you really wanted to. It would just take longer. So we're going to combine the flour and the salt and the sugar into a food processor. Let me see if I can get it in here without dumping it everywhere. And you're basically just going to pulse it until it's all combined, these 3 ingredients. And then we're going to take our butter and pitch in there. Okay, I moved my mixer over here just so I can have it. So this dry mixture is going to go into a bowl. Just get a good sized bowl to where you can mix things together. So this is going to go in there. And then now I'm going to whisk my eggs, milk, my eggs, cream, and vanilla together in a mixer. Just looking back, I definitely could have done that by hand in a bowl. I didn't need this big mixer. So this is going to go over top of the dry mixture, and you're basically just going to fold it in until you get a dough. So I'm going to dump this out on the counter now. And you're supposed to knead it just a little bit to kind of to get it squished together, really just pull it all together. Okay. And you're supposed to make it into a disc and put it in plastic and put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours minimum, but it'll also store up to 3 days. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure it's all mixed good because I can still see some white parts in there. So I'm going to keep doing this until the white stuff's mostly gone. Alright, so I've got my disc out of the refrigerator, and I had to let it sit for a minute, or I did let it sit for just a minute because it's it's still kind of hard. But it said to roll it out on a generously floured surface. I've got a lot of flour here on my countertop, and the countertop is clean, and I wiped it off really good. So I've got this, I've got my tart pan, I've got a piece of aluminum to put on top of the crust, and I've got the, what are they called, pie beads, or whatever they're called?
Beans.
Beans. Pie beans.
Baking beans.
Baking beans, that's it. And then I've got some flour just in case I need to put some more on top. It still feels pretty firm, but I want to make sure I flour the top too, because you don't want the rolling pin to stick. And you're going to roll this out to be like 11 inches. And then you're done. So So I think I've got it the best I can. It's still wanting to fall apart, honestly, a little bit. So I'm not going to mess with it too much more. I'm going to see if I can't.
But the instructions did make it sound like that was completely normal.
Like like they expected it to crumble.
Yeah, like expect it to crumble because it's going to. This, I have to say, it might taste phenomenal, but Kevin has made me Bakewell tarts in the past. We've done the recipe for the Bakewell tarts.
Yeah, this is awful.
This is never,
I mean, literally.
This pastry should not be like this at all. I would recommend, if you're going to make this, I would recommend going and doing that basic pastry crust from that Bakewell tart recipe, because in her instructions in this book, this Harry Potter cookbook, she has made it clear that it's gonna fall apart and you just have to use water to get it together. So, but it doesn't have to be like that. If you've ever,
I'm just gonna piece it together.
yeah, and that's
squish it together, because I'm never gonna get that together in one piece. Reconstructed it the best I could. I mean, it looks pretty decent. So now you want to go through and poke holes in the bottom, just so you won't get any bubbles and air building up. And then you're going to take your aluminum and put it in the bottom. And most of the time you can just use parchment paper. I'm kind of surprised this one said aluminum, but you know, it works. Get it in there, right up to the edges, and then pour your baking beans in there. And kind of spread them out on the bottom. And this is, like I said, going to bake for 20 minutes. All right, it's been 20 minutes, so you have to take out the beans and the aluminum. And I'm going to try to take it to where I don't dump these beans everywhere. But basically what you're going to do is I'm going to reduce the heat. I've already done it. Reduce the heat in the oven to 350. Make sure it doesn't stay. I'm going to reduce the heat to 350, which I've already done. And I'm going to stick this back in the oven for 7 to 10 minutes just to brown it up the rest of the way. All right, so this was after, what did we leave it in? 8 minutes?
8 minutes.
8 minutes, and you can see it's browned, but now it's got a nice fissure in the middle of it. Okay, so the next step is to make the chocolate bottom. So what you want is a bar or some kind of, whatever, a bittersweet chocolate. This one is a 4-ounce bar of bittersweet chocolate and a half a cup of your heavy cream. And you want to chop up your bittersweet chocolate, and you're going to put it in a microwave safe bowl. And you're going to microwave it with the heavy cream for 2 minutes, stirring every 30 seconds, and then just keep on doing that until it's until it's good and creamy. So that's what we're going to do. So this actually, it looks chunky. I actually took it out at 1.5 minutes. When they give directions like 2 minutes, stirring constantly, I don't like that, because our microwave is a pretty powerful microwave. So 2 minutes for our microwave might be, a minute in our microwave might be 2 minutes in somebody else's microwave. So I don't like that. So I'm just gonna spread it. It's very oily.
Hopefully it'll taste okay.
Yeah, hopefully it'll set. So it's supposed to set, but the oil actually looks like it's separated from the chocolate some. So anyway, we'll see if it sets. Maybe it's supposed to make like a custard almost. So it's supposed to cool completely until it's set. So we'll be back once we'll get to that point. Okay, so we're on the last step of this recipe. This one is for the pumpkin filling. So what we need is 1.5 cups of canned pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. And this is a 15-ounce can. It took the whole thing. You need a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon of ground allspice, 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/8 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/2 cup of heavy cream, 2 large eggs, and then 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And you also need about 1.5 ounces of bittersweet chocolate if you want to drizzle the top of your pie with a melted chocolate. So basically what I'm going to do is, in a pan, I'm going to add everything except the cornstarch and the eggs. So I'm going to turn this on. So this we're going to mix really well keep heating it until it's hot, but not bubbling. So we don't want it actually boiling. We just wanted to get it hot. Okay, it just bubbled, like popped once or twice. So I know it's getting pretty hot or getting warm enough. So I'm going to mix my eggs and my cornstarch. Literally, I'm just going to fork. I'm just going to break this up. So I'm gonna add this to the pumpkin mix, and I'm gonna cook it basically, and it can start bubbling now till it gets thick. It's starting to bubble. It's very, you can see it's gotten quite a bit thicker. So basically, you don't do anything with it except remove it from the heat and let it cool to room temperature. Okay, our filling is completely cooled off now, so I'm just gonna basically put it in this shell with the chocolate, and the chocolate did set. So I still think it may have separated because it made it lumpy looking, but it seems to be fine. So this is when you would drizzle chocolate on top. We are just going to put it in the refrigerator until it is set.
So Kevin is leaving this part up to me.
The fun part.
Yeah, we had put it on a plate in the refrigerator just to get it in and out. And it's been in there for probably about an hour. So I'm going to pop this up. And then hopefully it'll slide off of this bottom. And if not, I have oh no, it's gonna slide off. There we go. So this is supposed to make 8 pieces. And see how the layers on the side, you have the base and then the chocolate and then the pumpkin on the top. So this says, Harry, Ron, and Hermione can hardly wait for the pumpkin tart to be cleared away so they can rush over to Hagrid and congratulate him on his new position as Care of Magical Creatures teacher. Now that his name has finally been cleared, thanks to our dauntless trio, Hagrid is a qualified wizard and can fulfill his lifelong dream to teach. That is from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Chapter 5. That is where the pumpkin tart is mentioned. So, no bake, chocolate bottom, pumpkin tart. Here we go.
The crust is very crunchy. I like the chocolate.
That, it is interesting with the chocolate.
The chocolate ruins that, to be honest with you.
Well, it is...
it's bittersweet. It is a truly bitter...
It is, yeah, bittersweet chocolate.
If they had left it, if they'd made it milk chocolate, or if they'd made it any other chocolate, it probably would have been good, but it's so bitter that it's just not enjoyable. The pumpkin's fine. It's a pumpkin pie, is all it is. I want to try the crust.
I think it's surprising to me that, because I was afraid, like when you open cloves, you really smell cloves. Those spices in it, I was afraid that it was going to be too overwhelming of those spices.
No.
It's not. It's a very, very mild flavor.
It tastes like a pumpkin pie.
I do have to say that the dough, I personally, the crust, I would rather use a different recipe because it's crisp and it ended up working out okay.
Tastes good.
Yeah, but it is dry.
It is dry, but I think it's just supposed to be kind of dry.
Yeah, but we have I know we've had used other recipes that I think are better. This recipe does not give you like times, like at this time you should start doing this, or at this time you should start doing this. I can tell you if I made this again, or if Kevin made this again, sorry, I did not make this, Kevin made this. he would have started making the pumpkin filling immediately when he started making the dough. So once you get
once you put the dough in the oven, you can start making your crust.
Yeah, so like the dough initially, the tart, the crust goes in the oven for 20 minutes. You could absolutely go ahead and start on that pumpkin filling.
Yeah, because you have to let it sit and cool off to room temperature anyway, and it takes a little while.
Exactly. So you may as well, you could go ahead and be doing those at the same time. The other thing that we would change is the time for the microwave, the chocolate in the microwave.
Yeah, probably would have stopped it a minute and it would have been fine. In our microwave. Now your microwave need 4 minutes, you know.
I would also change, so like when I own a recipe book, it's my recipe book and I make notes. I'll put on here the date that we made it, whether we liked it or not, and any changes we want to make. So for this, I would cross out the bittersweet chocolate and I would put milk chocolate
or
semi-sweet. I don't think, to me, it's not bad.
It's pretty bitter to me.
To me, it doesn't ruin the flavor of it like it did for Kevin. But I would just prefer to use a semi-sweet would be perfect, I think, instead of bitter. This was interesting to make. It
wasn't hard except for the crust one to fall apart, but beyond that, it was. And it even says in the directions, this crust is very hard to roll out.
Yeah, so it's just that I just know that we have done. Kevin has done.
I've made crust with just crumbling up stuff with my fingers and pressing it in the bottom.
And not having to use the food processor at all.
And it worked perfectly.
And it works perfectly. So if it's a crust where you're having to put it together all the time, then to me that's not a good recipe for a crust. So I would just use a different recipe for that. But it has a decent flavor. It's just a lot milder flavor. Don't you think the pumpkin itself?
Yeah, it's not as spiced as like a pumpkin pie. Is it? It's not as spicy.
No, I thought it would be. Yes, I thought it would have a lot more. I thought like the nutmeg and the allspice. I thought that would come through a lot stronger, and it did not. Yeah. It has more like a pure pumpkin to it.
Yeah, I like it. The worst thing for me is just the chocolate. It's just too bitter for me.
Right.
Everything else is fine.
Right. So if you have this cookbook, and if you've tried any recipes from this cookbook, the Unofficial Harry Potter Cookbook, let us know. You can see, we have had a blast going through here and choosing recipes that we want to try. So this will not be the last recipe that we try from this book. We have lots of others to do, but if you have this cookbook, if you've tried any, let us know which one is a good one to try next. And thanks for watching.